Alright, sup people. Welcome to another episode of Adabana Odd Tales. Now, this game, and for some reason I don't have the tab open anymore. Where did it go? Why is it, what the, huh? This is very weird. Oh, there it is. Okay, that was very, very odd. Okay. Odd tale, ha ha ha. Alright, anyway, so the last episode got blocked, and I had to remove all of the audio entirely from the entire video, so that's unfortunate. This time, I have made sure to turn the desktop audio completely off so that I can talk this time and actually narrate properly, like I did the entirety of last episode, and then had to edit out, which is unfortunate. Alright, well, anyway, time to continue on the story. I think if it loads probably here we go. Yeah, this one. Yes, I want to load. Shirahime and Karafude came back to the idyllic early spring setting. Now, and last episode, I even you wouldn't have been able to hear it because I had to cut out all the audio, but I kept on saying how I loved all the super cool words they were using, and like the words completely paint the picture. You don't even need to see the game for it to understand what's going on. It's really good at doing that. Anyway, Shirahime looked around as she stepped in. It was silent, with no sign of the honest old couple or the greedy old couple. I'll find the bookworm. As for you, yes, I will look into finding a way to procure ink my own way. They shared a brief exchange and parted ways. Karafude moved nimbly, climbing trees and peering through thickets with the skill of a trained hunter. Thickets like that. There is little doubt he will find the bookworm soon. Nonetheless, Shirahime was the only one who could turn it to ink. He could not return it to the book without her aid. Shirahime was also confident that Karafude would respect her wishes. There is no need to hurry, but it would be improper to leave the story suspended indefinitely. The illustrated book had stopped at the point where the oldest old man was beside himself with grief over his mortar being burned to ashes. Shirahime thought that if she could not get the ink to rewrite the story, then she should let the matter go at some point. If I wish strongly enough to change the story, my wishes will become ink. But is my wish strong enough? Shirahime sat down by the roadside and opened up the book, reviewing the story thus far. What do I wish to do with this story? What manner of ending can bring happiness to the old couple and to Shiro? Shiro not dying? Shiro coming back to the old man as Shiro? What about... Shirahime closed her eyes and imagined it. Her reawakened emotions were slowly beginning to tinge her blank, white heart with signs of colour. But she still had an uncertain, almost infantile mindset that made it difficult to work out a plot that would satisfy her. Why is he called Hanasakaji-san, meaning old man of the blooming flowers, yet he has not made a single flower bloom? The question was a welcome distraction from thinking in circles. From what I've witnessed, he has not grown a single flower, so why is this the title? How is the original plot supposed to play out after this point? A conclusion Shirahime was yet to see, and the preferred one she clung to closely. The two concepts grew entangled and conflicted within her. Just then, one clear desire made its way to the surface of her heart. Oh God, okay. Shirahime one solemn wish. Just as Shirahime realized what she really wanted. Lady Shirahime. Lady Shirahime. She heard a soft voice speak up. She opened her eyes and found the honest old man standing before her. He was carrying something very gingerly in his arms. He must have held the ash he collected from the greedy old man's cookfire. Cookfire. Are you not cold sitting out here like this? It may be spring, but the weather is still chilly. I'm fine, thank you. Shirahime smiled warmly, touched by the old man's show of care. Why are you alone? Where is Sir Karafude? Karafude is searching for a bookworm. I have been searching for another way. Another way, you say? Yes, it might be possible for me to change the ending of this story. The old man's eyes widened. As she observed him, she thought back to what he had told her before. Hanasakaji-san was the only fate the man knew, so he had to accept it, or so said the philosophical expression on his face. I would not dream of changing anything if you did not wish it, sir. However, if you do wish for this story to go in another direction, I would like to hear it. I would do all that I can to ensure you have what you wish. His eyes just turned black. Shirahime finished hesitantly and awaited the old man's reply. But even as a fresh breeze ran its full course around them, the old man remained stony and silent. You see in his frickin' eyes, bro? Excuse me, sir? The old man let out a low noise. Shirahime thought it was the awkward grunt of someone clearing their throat, but... the rapid exhaling by the old man was some kind of strange laughter. This music is creepy, dude. Sir? Oh my god, what has happened to his... Oh my god. Dear me, Lady Shirahime. When he finally managed to get the words out, they were still half choked with laughter and his tone grew oddly distorted. What the fuck? You mustn't jest like that. Or else onion snakes will come. And then they'll eat you up. The man crowed, throwing his arms wide. The stooped back old man stood to attention like the jolt of lightning had hit him, giving him the appearance of a clockwork toy. Shirahime was terror-stricken by his sinister voice, his very unelderly, aggressive posture, and most of all, his aimless, drifting, unfocused eyes. Shirahime tensed up as though doused in ice water, watching as he underwent some sort of hideous transformation. What the fuck? Red cracks ran from his head to the tips of his fingers and toes with an audible noise. It was like an egg starting to crack. In fact, it was hard to describe as anything other than a freakish hatching. The cracks grew until pieces of the old man's shell fell away, revealing something burned red inside. Holy crap, man. Oh my god! Dude, what happened here? Whatever it was that tore its way out of the old man's body, it kept swelling unabated. Its voice grew increasingly inhuman, rumbling like a tremor of the ground. Ugh! That noise. It's... Shirahime stood there dumbfounded as if her soul had left her body, then a thought made her gasp sharply. It's what I meant back then in the woods at night. It was the creature that Kurofuda had slain after it had attacked Shirahime. This one looked different, but it had the same colour and presence. Why did the old man... What used to be the old man was now swelling to the point that it utterly overshadowed Shirahime. What Shirahime felt, however, was only a fleeting sorrow. Was it what I said? Shirahime! A black shadow flitted by from the side, and a boy stood with his back to Shirahime protectively. Yes, sir! It was just like what had happened in that late autumn forest. Kurofuda-san, what's going on here? I know not. I told the old man I might be able to change story, and then he became that. I see. We'd back off for now. Kurofuda said promptly with a single horizontal swing of the brush in his hand. The creature had been swinging a fist down at them, but the line of Kurofuda's brushstroke intercepted it, causing it to disperse with a spray of red. Nice. Kurofuda took Shirahime in his arms and ran while he could. Oh my god. That was a demon known as an Adabana spoiler. Once they made it behind the neighbour's house, they stooped down behind a thicket in the garden. When they lifted their heads to peek above the thicket, they could see the red monster pacing up and down the road. After observing this for a while, Kurofuda let out a deep breath and informed Shirahime of what that was. An Adabana spoiler? They're giant, twisted masses of thoughts run amok. Most of them act on impulse as they seek to ruin stories. Thoughts? Are they the same as the bookworms? Maybe, but they can't be taken care of the same way. See how absurd it looks. Shirahime cautiously peeked her head over the thicket and watched the Adabana spoiler's behaviour. Much like the one she'd encountered in the woods, this one was giant and hideously misshapen, lurching awkwardly down the road. As it walked, its strange arms moved, its hands spraying out red motes that looked like blood spurts. They turned into livid blood clots that splattered to and fro, making the idyllic countryside look like a scene of horror. Ooh. What are those? It seems to be planting something. The Adabana spoiler gave a laugh that could have very well been mocking the terrified Shirahime. The wind carried it to them loudly. Let us make skulls bloom on dead trees. Let us make skulls bloom on dead trees. Skulls? Dead trees? Ah! Shirahime started to murmur the words in confusion, but then she cried out in alarm. Things began to bubble and seethe like a soup, wriggling their way out of the bare branches of the trees lining the road. The thing swelled visibly, gave off a frothing foam, and peeled back to reveal something white within. Whatever they were, they dotted the tree branches like flowers, yet those were not the tree's typical plum or cherry blossoms. Ugh! Let us make skulls bloom on dead trees. Yes, those were skulls. They were human skulls and dog skulls both. Some were small enough to pinch between two fingers, some were too big to hold in one's arms. Each time the Adabana spoiler sprayed its red mist, its words came true. Skulls bloomed where flowers should have. Oh no, what a terrible scene. Why is it making these awful things bloom? What does it wish to do with the story? Shirahime asked Kurofuda as she covered her ears. The din it was making had become unbearable. The hundreds and thousands of blooming skulls clacked their teeth and rattled their jaws, all laughing en masse. Bone clashed against dried bone, creating a hollow cacophony that rang out to the heavens. Look at the book. You'll probably find it infested now. Shirahime took her hands off her ears and opened the book. Oh. The giant worm-eaten hole from before was inexplicably filled, and the next part was written in sinister red text. Countless deaths sprouted. The wind sent the ashes into the air and scattered them all about. Then, countless deaths sprouted. The buds awaiting spring on their bare branches all suddenly sprouted, blooming into a multitude of skulls. The old man didn't want Shiro to suffer in solitude, and so he decided to spread death across the land. Shiro could be Shiro in a dead world, and no matter how badly the greedy old man treated him, he would never die again. But Shirahime's voice quivered. More red words filled the pages as she watched. It was like the book was bleeding from being hurt. The old man was not long for this world anyway, so plunging into the abyss of death was an act that came easily to him. As long as he could stay with Shiro forever, being in a world of death wasn't so bad, he thought. In fact, the sooner he departed for the afterlife, the easier it would be. After all, he wouldn't be alone. This is creepy. Is this the happy ending that the old man wanted? Shirahime couldn't believe it. To her, this could only be a twisted, horrible nightmare. But this is truly what the old man wants, and must we accept it? No, not necessarily. Even now, especially now, Kurofuda spoke in the same cool, composed tone. Yes, this ending came from his mind. Anyone is susceptible to wishing for destruction. But I strongly doubt that this is all he wants. You believe so? Shirahime looked to Kurofuda anxiously, and he met her gaze steadily. The old man accepted Shiro's death as a single inevitable fate. From the way he looked, the way he spoke, he meant what he said. Yes. Shirahime thought back to the look of placid acceptance on the old man's face and nodded. Kurofuda was right. Even if his mind had its dark moments, it's hard to believe that death was all he wanted. I imagine that the Adabana spoiler, I ate the old man in much the same way the bookworms eat the book. His inner longing for death swelled out into this. Is that also what the Adabana spoiler wanted? If so, then why? Like the bookworms, Adabana spoilers were ostensibly the thoughts of the people who read the story. If so, would that mean that many people had wished strongly for there to be death after reading Hanasakuji-san? The sheer senselessness and terror of the thought made the blood drain from Shirahime's cheeks. Kurofuda watched her solicitously before slowly shaking his head. I don't know. He drew the brush out of his case in a deliberate gesture. In any case, you stay here, Shirahime. I'll dispose of it. What do you plan to do? I'll have to cut it down. That would take the old man with it, would it not? Yes. As the answer Shirahime had expected it, but she bit her lip all the same. Doing nothing would be the same as allowing this death infestation to spread to the whole book. It has to be done. The old man suddenly turned into an oni and was cut down by someone will be a very strange ending to the story, but a necessary one. It's all right. I'll make it quick. You won't suffer. Kurofuda gave Shirahime's trembling shoulder a tender pat. He started to rise from the thicket with a look of grim determination when... Wait, please! Shirahime spoke up in a desperate tone. What is it? I would like to try something. Would you allow me some time? I don't think we have much time to spare. What's your plan? Shirahime was stalling Kurofuda in the midst of an emergency, but Kurofuda showed no sign of anger or impatience. He kept his composure throughout. Shirahime was on the verge of breaking down in confusion, but she chided herself to do all that she could to answer his consideration in kind. If this Adabana spoiler is some kind of bookworm, then would I not have the ability to turn it into ink? If it could be stowed somewhere, could it be removed without you needing to use your brush? Then all we would need to do is find the bookworm that ate the original section, and we could restore the story, yes? Of course. Kurofuda listened with wide eyes, then replied with a sigh. Shirahime had barely managed to articulate the idea at all, but Kurofuda must have seen it as a bold proposal. It's worth a shot, but keep in mind that it could be dangerous. I know. You can try it, but if I perceive any danger to you at all, I'm cutting it down where it stands. Agreed? Yes. Shirahime nodded eagerly, grateful for how dependable Kurofuda was. Oh my god. The two of them stepped out of the neighbour's garden and walked up to the Adabana spoiler once more. Its form wriggled and writhed like a flickering flame, and it let out a menacing roar. Let us make skulls bloom on dead trees! It crowed in a high-pitched, beast-like, distorted tone, then sprayed out more red motes from its arms. Kurofuda swung his brush rapidly in the air, sending out splashes of black ink that guarded against the encroachment of the motes. Shirahime, now! The Adabana spoiler stopped moving for a split second when the blank ink splashed in. Shirahime seized her chance. She was too tense to speak, but she forced her body into motion and sprung at the demon. Oh crap. Her white-clad form was swallowed into the sinister writhing red mass. It was the most fleeting of sights, like a piece of paper bathed in hellfire, evaporating without producing any smoke. You see what I mean? This is fantastic imagery. You can tell what is happening here without needing to see it. Roar. The Adabana spoiler opened its mouth wide, letting out an unearthly howl. Was it a cry of delight at having eaten the finest of foods, or was it something else? Shirahime! 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 It was a familiar feeling. She was in a strange place, carried along by a strange torrent, distracted by glimpses of scenery rapidly flying by. Fragments of thoughts and memories flitted around her. Each time she touched one, it would melt away without a trace. Struggle as she might, reach as she might, they dissolved as soon as her fingertips touched them. Then, Princess, Lady Shirahime. Amidst this torrent of incoherent thoughts, Shirahime heard her name called and blinked in surprise. Is that you, old man? The turbulent storm died down as soon as she answered. It was calm, but not peaceful. The old man had been devoured by the Adabana spoiler, yet here he was, standing in the midst of the dim light. Yes, to my shame I was possessed by the Adabana spoiler. Now I am stuck here. I am powerless, even though it is a foolish part of me acting out. I can do nothing to stop it. His wrinkled countenance creased even further in regret. This place must have been the Adabana spoiler's stomach. The old man's conscience was trapped here, powerless to do anything but watch what happened. Never did I imagine I would get you stuck here as well, Lady Shirahime. I am so very ashamed. Do not be, old man. I am here of my own volition. It is not too late. I can still turn the Adabana spoiler to ink, and give the story a happier ending. You mustn't, Princess. The Adabana spoiler isn't something that can be controlled. The old man raised his furrowed brow and quickly spurned Shirahime's offer. You need powerful ink to conquer it, and you will get no such ink in this empty place. Now that I'm stuck here, there is nothing that can be done. Please leave. You must not vanish. There are other illustrated books in need of your aid. But, and besides... Sure, he must have to protest. The old man's lips curled widely. What is with his eyes again? Painting over everything with death isn't so bad. It was the same twisted smile he'd worn just before transforming into the Adabana spoiler. Sure, he may tensed up and instinctively took a step back. But the old man quickly dispelled the sinister smile and clenched his jaw in a look of almost useful determination. Hup! He thrust his arms forward, shoving Shirahime with all his elderly might. His eyes gleamed sadly. Shirahime realized that those ominous words were actually a kindness on the old man's part. She struggled, but it was too late. Shirahime's form flew into the air and got swallowed once more in a flurry of red petals. Up and up, it felt like she'd been swept up in an air current. It carried her away from the Adabana spoiler's core and back to the safer world outside. Old man! She drew upon her full vocal strength to call out, but her voice cracked so quickly she didn't even hear it herself. Shirahime, it's no use. She heard a voice in her ear as she got jerked firmly back. Graffiti. Shirahime murmured absently. She couldn't remember the exchange she'd had with the old man in the belly of the Adabana spoiler. All she knew was that there was no going back now. It's no use. The Adabana spoiler is too powerful. My brush can't cut it. Graffiti informed her in a low tone, holding her protectively. She could see an agitated sweat on his brow, an unusual sight. Then, we'll have to run, otherwise we're going to get swallowed up by this blossoming death and despair. Blossoming death and disappear. Shirahime nodded weakly. She lacked the energy to even speak. Kurofuda hastily scribbled in the air with his brush. The blurry symbol for door transformed into a picture of a door. They hurried through the door as an unearthly ear-splitting demonic howl sounded behind them. The door closed behind them, cutting them off from that horrific world. Now they were back in the quiet, tranquil storage shed. Yet, for the two slumping to the floor, the air was still heavy and fraught with tension. Doubly so for Shirahime, who had worn herself out with the mad dash to the door. Now she was hunched over and gasping for breath. Are you alright? Yes, I'm fine. Shirahime answered firmly, but she still looked pallid. It was as much as an indicator of her inner state of mind as it was of her physical exhaustion. Shirahime held out the illustrated book she'd been holding close to herself. Her hand ran along the cover. Don't open it. You'll get dragged in again. Yes, I'm aware. What used to be the illustrated book, Hanasakaji-san, was now a terrible sight to behold. The colour of the Adabana spoiler's body had become ink, staining the whole book like it had been dropped in a pool of blood. Even the higher quality outer binding wasn't spared. It was a dark red colour, with no trace of the ink with which the title had been written. This was no longer Hanasakaji-san. It was a far more dreadful book, though much was readily apparent. I wonder if I could have changed this outcome if I'd chosen one of the other options. I should have never voiced such thoughts to the old man. Yeah, I thought so. Shirahime's quiet murmur was tinged deeply with regret. Discerning that, Kurofuda shook his head. It wasn't your fault. Well, the old man only went mad when I brought up the idea of changing the story. No, he just happened to go mad right then. The old man had the Adabana spoiler within him for a long time. It happened to consume him at the same moment he was speaking with you is all. But... Shirahime grew chalked up as soon as she began to protest. Chalked. Her breathing grew ragged again. Shirahime doubled over once more, brought her hand up to her mouth and coughed violently. Easy, Shirahime. What's wrong? Are you okay? Kurofuda leaned in anxiously, his eyes wide. What? I'm fine. You don't look fine. You're fucking spitting out blood, bro. There was a trickle of red running down Shirahime's chin. Likewise, the hand covering her mouth had what looked like a blood clot she had coughed up. The red showed up all too vividly against her pure white attire. You don't look okay to me, that's... No, it's not blood. She responded in a much firmer tone than expected. It is ink that welled up from within me. Ink? Shirahime cupped her hands and held them out to Kurofude, Kurofude, much like when she turned bookworm's ink, albeit in a far more sickening red colour. Yes, I apologize for scared you, but at least now my thoughts have taken form. Now, at long last, I can see what it is I wish to do with the story. Would that I could have attained it before the Adabana spoiler appeared. Kurofude studied Shirahime for several long moments. Her voice still carried a tone of regret, but she didn't seem to be struggling to hold her weak form together. Even her breathing was quiet and even, like she hadn't suffered a coughing fit at all. That's really ink. Yes. Hold up your brush case, please. Kurofude hesitantly brought it out. The red fluid in Shirahime's hands floated up into the case. It was the same as when he drew in the bookworm ink. Even the ink running down Shirahime's chin flew into the brush case, leaving her face clean. I see. It does seem to be ink. Kurofude pulled out his brush and examined its red tip. What do you want to do with it? The book's beyond saving now. Yes, I'm aware. That story has ended for good. I was thinking of making a new illustrated book. A new book, you say? Kurofude replied incredulously. Shirahime pulled out a book that had been lying nearby. When we first came back here, I happened to spot this book. It left me wondering why it was the only one with blank pages. Sure enough, it was a ream of white paper bound with a cover and cord, nothing more. In essence, it was a notebook, but amid the pile of illustrated books, it stood out as a pure tome that had lost the story it was meant to tell. Kurofude, could we not use that ink to create a new story for the old man and the other people in the tale? Shirahime looked up at him with pleading eyes. Kurofude replied in a soft tone. We don't have that much ink. I'm not sure it will be enough to make an entire story. It does not have to be a long one, if we could but make a setting where they can all live happily. Kurofude let out a small huff. Fine, I'll give it a shot. Thank you. Kurofude rose to his feet and swept his inked brush through the air. It was the kind of bright red that could stain everything around it, the kind of colour that flowed from a forever unhealing wound, formed a single word. Oh, of course. Kurofude exclaimed softly in realization of something as he finished the last stroke of the word. Dream. That was the word his brush wrote in the air. The fiery, red glowing word was sucked onto the blank pages of the book Shirahime was holding. Thank you. Shirahime wasted no time opening it up. There on the first page, in bright red text, was Shirahime's wish put into very concise words. Once upon a time, there lived an honest old man and woman. They had a dog named Shiro. Nothing bad ever happened to them, and they all lived happily ever after. The end. That was it. Naturally, it wasn't much of a story. It was a clumsy effort at storytelling. Text there for the sole purpose of crafting a paradise for the old couple and their dog. This is all I can do. It's enough. Kurofude offered her gentle words of reassurance in a moment of self-deprecation. It's better than a world of death. In fact, it might even be a nicer ending than their original one. It's a peaceful setting, undisturbed by didactic tragedies inserted for the sake of giving the story a moral. Most dreams are more pleasant than reality. Shirahime gave Kurofude a faint smile, hugging the untitled new book to her chest. Damn, bro. Deep. Adabana Odd Tales. Wonder how many stories there will be in this game. Shirahime was jolted awake by the sound of a light whip. She opened her languid eyes and looked toward the sound. It was the illustrated book she had dropped when her grip had gone slack. I must have nodded off again. After wrapping up matters in Hanasakaji-san, Shirahime and Kurofude had been searching for other illustrated books that had distortions. In this case, searching was a fancy word for picking up random illustrated books and skimming through their pages. If a book held a distortion, its pages would glow and draw the two of them in as the last one had, though they had yet to find a new one that did. That may have been because Shirahime had yet to go through many books herself. For each time she opened one, she grew absorbed in the story or grew drowsy and nodded off. It was a lot of time wasted. What a bad habit of mine. How could I fall asleep so easily at the drop of a hat? The way she kept flitting in and out of consciousness, it was hard for her to guess how long she had been in the land of Adabana. What if I nap for years at a time without even noticing? That's unlikely. That seems both fun and frightful in a sense. As Shirahime mused to herself, she looked over at Kurofude sitting near to her side. He was sitting with his legs out, pulling books from the stack on his right, then setting them on a stack to his left when they came up clean. He was the very model of efficiency, a goal that Shirahime would love to reach but never would. What is it? Shirahime caught Kurofude's eye and he looked up at her. Even then, his hands seemed to move of their own will, paging through books, depositing a finished one on the clean stack before picking up a new one. This was a master at work. Daunted, Shirahime averted her gaze. I apologize. I believe I nodded off again. It's fine. We're not in any hurry here. Kurofude replied in his usual offhanded tone, before getting a thoughtful look. As he started to page through the new book, he stopped himself and returned it to the stack on his right. I could use a break. Talk to me. Kurofude framed it as for his own benefit, but it was certainly for Shirahime's. All right, Shirahime replied, feeling equal parts grateful and apologetic. I try to remain focused, yet it is difficult. I find myself curious on how the tale ends, and I can't help but keep reading on. It was meant to be a break for Kurofude, yet Shirahime still wound up blurting out an admittance of fault. Shirahime looked down and shrank in play as she could hear Kurofude exhaling. Perhaps it was a chuckle at her childish show of contrition. There's no need to fret. Like I said, we're not in any hurry. I'm sure that the illustrated books will be happy knowing someone is so eager to read through them. I guess that's one way to look at it. So, have you read any good ones? Kurofude had offered her a way out of the conversational hole she had dug for herself, dispelling her contrition and awkwardness in seconds. Good words. Yes. Shirahime picked up. Her tone when she answered was still modestly soft, but it was filled with delight. What the hell, bruh? I swear I just heard my door open and close. Anyway, the one I just read was called Warashibe Choja, the Straw Millionaire. It's about a young man who prays to the goddess Cannon and asks her to make him rich. He follows her guidance and picks up a single piece of straw. Shirahime gushingly recited the story that she had only moments ago read, as though the impression it left with her was too strong to keep to herself. Though she had regained a number of emotions till now, she had been very cautious with which to allow it to spring forth, expressing but a scant few. Oddly, such hesitation was nowhere to be seen when she spoke of fairy tales. Her cool, wintry dark eyes sparkled as though she was sharing stories that she had witnessed with her own eyes, not tales she had simply read. Say, as the conversation moved away from the fairy tale she had finished reciting, her gleaming eyes glazed over once more. I have been meaning to ask you something. Sure. Kurofude gave an unbothered nod to Shirahime's broaching of a new subject. Do you recall the forest in which we first met? And when I say met, I refer, of course, to when you met me in my current state, devoid of memories. In those cold, nighttime woods where you came to my rescue when I was under attack. Yes, I recall. What was that place? Were we inside an illustrated book? That monster which attacked me, now I remember it. I believe it must have been an Adabana spoiler. The red figure that lurked among those faded, desiccated trees. The dread that had been so distant in those woods felt closer than ever to Shirahime now. She shivered. Conversely, Kurofude was above such cowardice. He affirmed what she said dispassionately. Yes, as you surmised, there was an illustrated book you were in. I can't fix illustrated books on my own, but I can still pin down bookworms, cut down Adabana spoilers, and put a halt to further damage. I was out on patrol in a book that day, doing just that. That was how you found me? Yes, I was surprised. It had been so long since I last saw you. It was? Shirahime pondered that off-the-cuff remark. According to Kurofude, they had both taken on the role of bookmenders. They had wandered the book realms, fixing distortions as they found them. Kurofude had taken no issue with the fact that Shirahime had forgotten this fact. There's nothing for it. That's just how it is. The book mending must continue. Such mentality could have been a kindness or complete dismissal. Is there something on your mind? Yes, I was thinking about the past. The past. Long ago, you and I travelled together, but I left at one point, did I not? Why did I leave? Why did I come back? And why did I forget it all? I could not help but wonder about it all anew. I can see what you do. What you do. I can see that you do, Griffith replied in that tone after a brief pause. It was doubtful that he would be even remotely concerned if he were in Shirahime's shoes. He devoted himself wholly and purely to his duty to mend books. All emotions and foreign influences were deemed superfluous to his mission. Yet he never pushed Shirahime away, paralysed as she was by the world around her, and would often stop to consider things with her and offer a hand. I don't remember much about the past myself, just that you and I were both young children. Even now, Kurofude did what he could to share in Shirahime's uncertainty. Then, the next thing I knew, you were gone. After that, I did what I could by myself. I feel terrible for leaving you to do everything alone. There's nothing to worry about. There was nothing for it. Besides, I think I always knew that you'd be gone one day. Oh, I see. His answer surprised her and left her at a loss for words. She was reminded once more of the difference between him and her. Had Shirahime been through what Kurofude had, she would have been beside herself with sorrow and loneliness. Would she have been steadfast enough to not only accept the loss of the counterpart who shared her duty, but to perform her duty alone? When I found you were gone, I was unsurprised. I suspected I would never see you again. So I'm glad we've got a chance to see each other again. Shirahime stared incredulously at Kurofude. His tone was so placid, so devoid of any hint of his lonesome struggle. I can imagine. Now you can finally and properly restore those illustrated books. That, and it's just more fun this way. To Kurofude it must have seemed like an honest remark, unworthy of any particular emphasis, but for some reason that simple sentence touched Shirahime to her core. It was boring by myself. I was just exterminating any bookworm or Adabana spoiler I came across. It was as much a chore as any house cleaning. Kurofude had a pensive gaze, like he was reflecting on his own empty past. It was a childish expression, at least for him, akin to thinking back on years of boredom and belatedly sulking about it. That's why it felt like a trip down memory lane when I saw the way your expression kept changing as you searched through fairy tales. It reminded me that this is what it's like to read one. Kurofude said to Shirahime, with a fondness reflected in his words and his smile. It was a guileless, friendly smile, the kind given to an old war companion or to an accomplice in a prank. It was hard to say exactly what about that refreshing smile did it, but Shirahime suddenly felt an intense wave inside of herself. Something was trying to bear down on her from beyond the forgetfulness she had dubbed the white fog. Colours flashed and sounds played, as a giant maw opened to swallow everything before. I see. Shirahime held a hand to her chest and hung her head. The gesture alone was enough to force the wave to disappear without trace. But the colour didn't return to Shirahime's cheeks. She was still deeply shaken by the massive, intense thing that lay dormant within her. What's wrong? Nothing. I almost remembered something, but it was too brief, and there's nothing again. Shirahime answered without giving much away to Kurofude. It wasn't a lie, yet it still conveyed nothing about the tremendous sensation she had felt. I understand. Don't force yourself to remember if you can't. Kurofude still looked concerned, but he settled for a simple word of advice without prying further. Yes, of course, thank you. Shirahime thanked him for giving her the space. She reached down and picked up a book from a nearby stag. Ready to get back to it? Yes, I look forward to seeing what manner of story I will encounter next. Of course. Shirahime opened the cover as they spoke. Her eyes registered the title, but her mind didn't. Her consciousness was still focused on the other side of the white fog. She was focused on finding some hint, some trace of whatever it was that had flitted past her and vanished. which was why... Ah! When the pages of the book glowed, she let out a silly exclamation of surprise before she could figure out what was happening. A distortion? Grifude rose swiftly to his feet. Shihime tried to reply to him, but her consciousness was engulfed in the light. Her mind and body lost their outline as they were swept away to another place entirely. Bro, you coming to help? You coming to help, bro? Urashima Taro, I think this is. Although I can't really read that font. That was a swirl. The first thing she felt was the heat. Then came a smell that lingered in her nose, and the sound of crashing receding waves in her ears. She cautiously opened her eyes and saw an incredibly blue sky and sea that stretched as far as the eye could see. The sun was high in the sky, its rays searing all the land without mercy and highlighting the towering thunderheads in the sky with their iridescent lining. The beach. Shirahime took in a deep breath of sea breeze. Yes, this was a beach in the hottest part of summer. Gone was the tranquil simplicity of the late autumn forest and the early spring village. In its place was lively scenery that shimmered with fiery heat. What book is this, Shirahime? Grifude asked. Shirahime looked at the title of the book she was holding. Urashima Taro, I believe it is called. Urashima Taro, that sounds like the name of a person. Tis. Now you mention it, the title of the story is named after the main character's name. I see. Grifude's answer came so quickly it gave Shirahime pause. Why are you looking at me like that? Are you familiar with this tale, Grifude? I am. Grifude nodded readily. Given the sterile way Grifude treated illustrated books, Shirahime had assumed he was indifferent toward fairy tales. But considering that he had travelled the realms of illustrated books in Shirahime's absence, his knowledge of them should have come as no surprise. Would that also mean you know how to correct the distortion here? No, can't be sure this is the Urashima Taro that I'm familiar with. This one could end differently for all I know. So, in other words... Shirahime blinked a few times, considering the matter, and arrived at one thought. Stories change over time as people's thoughts influence them. As you said, right? Therefore, it could possibly be different from the one you know, correct? Precisely. Like that story you shared, Morishima Choja, that has variants of its own. Is that so? Yes, what you read, that was the story of a young man who received the goddess Canon's guidance, right? There's another version where instead the young man was to marry a rich man's daughter and her father challenges him with impossible tasks. That changes the beginning of the story considerably. Shirahime was impressed and more fascinated than ever by the idea of fairy tales. The young man in Hanasakuji-san said that his story only had one fate. That statement seemed to be both true and false. An illustrated book itself had but one ending, but there were infinite other possibilities to be found on the bookshelf outside the book's pages. That applies to more than fairy tales, I imagine, even a person's life. What a very curious concept. Shirahime gazed at the binding of Urashima Taro in wonder before finally opening it to the first page. The first page of Hanasakuji-san had been riddled with wormholes, but this one seemed slightly more intact at the start. Once upon a time, there was an upstanding and kind-hearted young man named Urashima Taro. One day, Urashima Taro was walking on the beach when he happened upon a group of children cheering at something. Curious, he stepped over to see what was going on. There he found... The sentence was cut short due to a large worm-eaten hole. Oh. Shirahime looked up with a soft exclamation. The beach had been empty before, but now there were several figures dotting the landscape. In the world of picture books, time advanced and the gears of fate turned as Shirahime and Grifude's eyes traced over the words on the pages. Shirahime was once again struck by the intimidating thought that they were responsible for the outcome of these people's story. That man over there, would that be Urashima? Shirahime asked, casting her eyes toward one of the figures that had popped up on the beach. He was a strapping young man, dressed in a baggy attire. The fishing gear he carried suggested that he was a fisherman by trade. He was walking over to the group of children with a perplexed look on his well-tanned face. "I'd say so," Graffiti affirmed after studying him for a moment. He added an additional observation. "He doesn't seem to notice us. Our guide must be someone else." As Graffiti spoke, the young man looked right past them with no sign of noticing them. Graffiti had explained before that the only person in an illustrated book that could see them or talk to them was the book's guide. As Sakura-san, that role had fallen to the main protagonist on Man Flowers, but it appeared to be someone else in Urashima Taro. Well, let's find ourselves a bookworm. Alright, Hatarimashita. Shirahime gave a nod with a serious expression that softened after a moment. There was a single hermit crab skittering away at the water's edge near where they stood. Its shell was adorably misshapen. Shirahime picked it up. The way it squeaked and flapped its familiar-looking fins from the shell's hole gave it away as a bookworm. I never knew bookworms were capable of such craftsmanship. It's definitely got some style. Shirahime smiled softly at the way it flailed about in her hands. Graffiti made his remark in a dry tone that was harder to find as serious or joking. The bookworm melted into ink in Shirahime's hands as they spoke. By now, used to this routine, Shirahime poured the ink into Graffiti's brush case. For a split second, something felt slightly out of place. The ink from bookworms carried the properties of the Kotodama that inhabited it, something she could tell by the ink's heat and texture, but the way the ink felt was very indistinct. What's wrong? Only that I find the ink rather odd to the touch, an indefinable quality that I can't quite put my finger on. Almost as though perhaps some other ink was mingled within it. Really? That's never happened before. Graffiti drew the brush from his brush case with a skeptical look. He peered intently at the brush's inky tip, but could not find anything amiss. Well, I'll try writing with it and see what happens. Ugh! Graffiti scrawled a beautiful kanji in the air with his practiced brushstrokes. As he described it, the writing was not done by Graffiti himself. Instead, the brush read the ink's Kotodama and used Graffiti's body to write it out. As such, Graffiti would have no way of knowing what would emerge if there were multiple sources of ink mixed together. However, turtle? The kanji appeared in the air, no different from usual. Graffiti's brush seemed to have used up all the ink writing this kanji, with no other word forthcoming. I don't see anything out of the ordinary with this one. They watched as the word for turtle flew into the book, the wormholes neatly filled, restoring the damage. Perhaps my imagination was overactive. Shirahime felt both relieved and apologetic for causing a fuss, but before she could deliver a proper apology, Graffiti leaned in and gestured to where the story picked up again. Well, at least we repaired it without any trouble. How will the story play out now? Ah, yes. Shirahime followed his finger and looked to the second half of the sentence. Ah, turtle. Curious, he stepped over to see what was going on. There he found a turtle lying helplessly on its back as children poked at it with sticks. The shadow in the midst of the group of children regains its form as she recited the full sentence. Likewise, Urashima Taro saw what was happening. Now, see here, stop that! What are you doing to that poor turtle? He called out loudly and ran over to the children. Urashima admonished the children sternly, but they were having so much fun that they refused to do as he said. Come on, we're just playing with a turtle. Yeah, we're not doing anything bad. We found it first, anyway. Finders keepers. Shirahime heard the children's snide back talk to Urashima Taro. Shirahime paled at the painful sight of the turtle flailing its legs in the air helplessly as the children's feet. Beat them up, Urashima. Beat them up. Luckily salvation came soon enough. What a bunch of rascals you are. Fine, I'll pay you for the turtle. Now it's mine to do with as I see fit. Urashima resorted to paying the children money for the turtle. Children, happy to have coin to spend, left the turtle be without a second's thought. Poor thing, that must have been awful for you. You're safe now. Go on back to the sea. Oh, thank goodness. Shirahime let out a sigh of relief and relaxed the hand that she had unconsciously clenched into a fist. Glancing over, she saw that Kurofune looked his unusual calm and impassive self as he looked on. Shirahime was aware how absorbed in stories she could become, yet even this degree of overinvestment made her blush in the face of Kurofune's restraint. Thank you for saving me, Urashima. Meanwhile, the turtle spoke aloud, just as the story told, to which Urashima Taro looked taken aback. The turtle offered to show its gratitude by taking Urashima Taro to the Dragon Palace at the bottom of the sea. The Dragon Palace? I couldn't possibly. I appreciate the sentiment, but the bottom of the sea is very far away, and I wouldn't be able to breathe. Don't worry, I'll leave everything to me, right on my back, and we will arrive in only a few strokes. It's perfectly comfortable for land dwellers, too. So please, you're more than welcome. I would love nothing more than to properly repay you for saving my life. Shirahime watched the turtles insist. Something nagged at the back of her mind, causing her to gasp softly. Something wrong? No. Shirahime was averse to the idea of yet another instance of her making a fuss about potentially nothing, as she had with the way the ink had felt. But there was no fool in Kurofude, he heard the turtle intently. That's the turtle whose ink made you feel strange before, but a caution may be in order with that one. All right. The turtle and Urashimataro wrapped up their discussion while the two of them spoke. Urashimataro was hesitant at first, but he was touched by the turtle's gratitude, and curious about the Dragon Palace. He decided to accept the offer. So he rode on its back. Urashimataro climbed on the turtle's back. The turtle plunged into the sea and swam against the waves. Just as the narration described, Urashimataro and the turtle carrying him went straight out to sea and swam with no hesitation whatsoever. The turtle had been so sluggish on the ground, but was now parting the waves and gaining distance with incredible speed. Where's the guide, though? Don't tell me the turtle's the guide. At first, they could see Urashimataro's upper back above the water's surface, but as the turtle swam farther out, he gradually sank into the waves. They're gone. Shirahime spoke forlornly, as though it was her that had sunk beneath the waves. Being a fairy tale, it was easy to guess that Urashimataro would not simply drown to death as one normally would. But the sight of a person sinking into water was so striking to her, it threatened that very perception. We should follow them. Which was why Kurofude's calm remark left her genuinely surprised. Follow them? How would we do that? He wasn't suggesting that they make their way through the waves like the turtle had. Kurofude chuckled lightly when Shirahime looked at him in trepidation. Turn the page. All right. Shirahime felt a mixture of relief and sheepishness hard to describe. She turned the page, wishing she could simply run off instead. Then her vision suddenly went dark, and she heard a splash and the sound of air flapping. The searing sunlight, the thunderheads, and the bright blue sky, the sea's horizon, the scenery present previously was wiped away before her eyes. Underwater. It was replaced in the blink of an eye with a quiet realm where everything was pale. A carpet of sand that stretched as far as the eye could see, seaweed that swayed to and fro, schools of shiny, silvery fish. Is this? Bubbles came out as she spoke, flitting past her face like shooting stars. That is an amazing simile, and I loved it. The bottom of the sea. Where they stood could only be described as that. The next page of the illustrated book depicted the same illustration as what they were looking at now. In fact, the undersea realm depicted on the book's pages must have been the reason they came here with but a turn of a page. How very curious, Shirahime murmured softly and continued reading. As the turtle promised, he did not drown beneath the waves. He could breathe as easily as he did on land, and even his clothing stayed dry. Urashimataro was thoroughly delighted as the turtle swam through the water. Finally they arrived at the Dragon Palace, a splendid undersea palace. The Dragon Palace. Oh, there it is. No one could have mistaken the place that stood towering in the distance as anything but the splendid palace. Its splendour stood out from its deep dark blue surroundings by some contrivance of firefly-like luminescent motes floating around it. That is an amazing sentence. It had white walls embedded with colourful pearls, vermilion pillars and parapets, and a roof with an iridescent sheen like the underside of a seashell. This is also a fantastic sentence. What the hell, man? Why do visual novels have better lyricism, or better... I'm gonna use the word lyricism, except it only refers to songs. Whatever. Same lyricism as novels. It's insane. Better lyricism. Better vocabulary. It's crazy. How lovely. Shirahime made her way toward the palace, her sigh of awe coming out as more bubbles. It was hard to move underwater, their footsteps were wobbly at best. When they finally made it through the front gate, they couldn't spot Urashimataro or the turtle. They must have been escorted to safety. Oh, I can open the illustrated book. That's fun. Open the text log. When they finally made it through the front, they must have been escorted inside already. The white cobblestones at their feet led to an elegant set of stone stairs up ahead. Huh? Said twice. At the top of the stairs stood a massive set of double doors that remained open, as though welcoming Shirahime and Kurofude inside. In we go. As Shirahime stood hesitantly in place, Kurofude took her hand and started ascending the stairs without delay. Kurofude, can we truly go inside? Of course we can. The story won't advance otherwise. Shirahime let out a breath. She had no ready reply to that. Kurofude's gait was by no means hurried, but his hand felt practically burning hot, and it left Shirahime shaken. There it is. That's the station again. Shirahime pressed her free hand to her chest and looked down. At that time, Kurofude had extended his hand to her from the tree branches in Hanasakaji-san. That time, Kurofude had smiled to Shirahime in the storehouse not too long ago. Whatever it was clamoring from beyond the white fog, it sought her out again now. Something dizzying. A flower? Poison? Sunlight? Is this familiar fondness? Shirahime took a guess at what it was. Since she had certainly journeyed through fairy tales with Kurofude in the past, a pang of nostalgia was to be expected. Undoubtedly, the undaunted Kurofude had guided the more timid Shirahime in the past. But Shirahime felt as though someone beyond the fog was objecting. There's a familiar fondness that I feel, but there's more to it than that. Suddenly she had bubbling around her. To what end had this thing reached out to her? Then something suddenly became very clear to Shirahime. Am I afraid? A shiver ran down her spine. As soon as she named the vague sense lurking in her heart, it felt as though it regained its full form. She could not tell exactly what she was afraid of. Was it her faded memories, herself, Kurofude, or someone she had met on her journeys? Regardless, somewhere deep within Shirahime's mind lurked not a fondness, but a fear for what lay beyond the fog. Oh, sorry, did I hurt you? Kurofude abruptly turned away from her and released the hand he'd been holding. Shirahime's hand was drained of its colour, cold as ice and trembling. No wonder Kurofude had wondered if he'd been too forceful. Shirahime took a few ragged breaths and shook her head. Was she answering his question or trying to shake off the fear welling up within her? Even she couldn't be sure. Yeah, okay, I just get that right. Then tell me what's the matter. You don't look well. Are you feeling sick? No. Shirahime searched for the right words and gave up and went quiet. She could tell that Kurofude's concern was genuine, but she wasn't certain that her fears were worth saying out loud. Kurofude seemed uncertain in his own right. When he saw Shirahime looking troubled, he would always extend a casual hand, but he never intruded upon her inner thoughts more than strictly necessary. He seemed to be stuck, trying to figure out whether Shirahime needed intervention or needed to be left alone. That was the impression he gave. Are you going to stand around forever? If you're coming, then get a move on. Their impasse was broken by a sharp female voice. They looked toward the source of the voice and saw a figure approaching them from beyond the doors. Holy shit. There, they saw a setting of resplendent colour. It was a glorious depiction of the sea from dawn to dusk in all its glorious hues. It complemented the elegant demeanour of the woman who wore it with a modest, scaly lustre, as it swayed akin to fins swimming in the water. That is a nice sentence. Just beautiful woman. It's been quite some time, Kurofude, Princess of White. Her features were every bit as lovely as her attire. She spoke with a smile that held a pale blue light of its own. The fact that she saw them and addressed them directly meant that she had to be their guide in the tale of Urashima Taro. While Shirahime could piece this much together, there was something else that didn't quite sit right with her. While the woman showed them warm affection, her eyes held a tint of a melancholy and were mysteriously weepy. Something about that intricate gaze felt familiar to her. Why should that look give me pause? She said herself, it has been quite some time, so undoubtedly I have met this person before. But still... The lady seemed different to the one she once knew, like the copy of a key that doesn't quite live up to the original. As Shirahime grappled with this frustration within. What are you gaping like a fish for? You're as precious as ever. The woman giggled behind her sleeve and turned on her heel. Come along now, we can talk later. The banquet is already underway. The woman walked with her kimono train trailing behind her, looking like the most beautiful fish in the sea. Shirahime and Kurofude followed in silence. By whatever means made it possible, the inside of the building was not filled with water. It had the same breathable air as the land above. They no longer had to struggle through open waters, and it was much brighter inside, allowing Shirahime relief enough to open their book once more. In the Dragon Palace, Urashima Taro was greeted by Otohime, the ruler of this splendid castle. It was easy to infer that this beautiful woman and their gracious guide was none other than Otohime herself. When Otohime learned that Urashima Taro had come to their turtle's rescue, she threw him a luxurious banquet as a reward. Hot damn, I'd want to be in his place. Otohime led them into the grand hall, straight out of the book's illustrations. And just as the book spoke of, there was a banquet underway in Urashima Taro's honour. Amid weighing seaweed and a brilliant forest of coral, schools of carp and flounder danced as lightly and gracefully as flower sprites. Urashima Taro was positively captivated by the sheer splendour of this highly heartfelt show of hospitality. Urashima was not the only one captivated, so was Shirahime. The paper lanterns, their flames giving off a warm glow, created a lively contrast between the sea's deep blue, so deep the light couldn't touch it. That is also an incredible sentence. Damn, bro, this is fantastic. Amidst the light and shadow floated red coral, lustrous seaweed, and silvery walls. Ladies clad in flowing silks flitted about like revolting lanterns. Dude, this is amazing. This lot here is fantastic. Oh my god. I need to look at these for my stories that I write. I need to use words like this, certain descriptions like these. Except I mostly write horror stories. The scene was depicted in all its glory in the book, but seeing it in reality was something else entirely. Those ladies are there. After watching for some time, Shirahime spoke up hesitantly to Otohime with a question crossed her mind. Shirahime was looking toward the dancing ladies. They didn't seem to match the description of carp and flounder. While Shirahime didn't quite finish asking a question, Otohime nonetheless answered as if she had. Yes, I had the carp and flounder take on human form. I thought that would make for more suitable entertainment for a land dweller like Sir Urashima. Now then, why don't we chat while he's distracted? Otohime turned to face them once more behind a pillar in the grand hall. While she could not leave the banquet for long, she was undoubtedly eager to catch up with Shirahime. However, you don't remember? Otohime's beautiful long-slitted eyes widened at the news that Shirahime had amnesia. How much have you forgotten? What about me? You've forgotten everything, haven't you? How could you forget everything? While the old man had accepted the news readily, Otohime was utterly incredulous. Otohime was flushed as she barraged them with questions, as though something about Shirahime being a blank slate was upsetting to her. She couldn't even recall her own name at first, from what I could tell. Yes, I keep trying to remember, but nothing ever comes. I am deeply sorry. You don't have to apologize, really. I'm sure you're more put out over this than anyone. Don't worry about the book mending. She can still handle that just fine. Kurafude, you silly boy. That's the last thing on my mind. Kurafude tried to speak up reassuringly, but Otohime, shut him down firmly. I don't care a whit about book mending. Well, no, maybe I do care a whit, but anyway. Don't you think mending your memory should be a higher priority than mending us? Forgetting everything must be terrifying for the poor girl. Otohime's aloof, pearly beauty belied the warmth she carried within her. Shirahime wasn't certain how to respond to the look of open sympathy Otohime was giving her. Everyone else had simply treated her memory loss as a fact of life. Otohime was the first to characterize her as deserving of pity for it. I am all right, truly. Thank you for your concern. Perhaps I should say that forgetting everything actually leaves me with less to worry about. Wait, really? Yes, strangely enough, to me, my present self is all that I am. Shirahime struggled to find the right way to put it into words, but even then, it was a clumsy showing. But Otohime seemed to get the idea. You know, maybe you're right. Maybe the reason we want the holes in our stories filled is because other parts of the story are still there. If we woke up one day to nothing but blank pages, I'm sure we'd be fine with it. We could fill them with whatever we wanted, after all. Her view was very close to Shirahime's own. Shirahime nodded readily in agreement. Otohime let out an exhale of breath that was neither a sigh nor a laugh. She studied Shirahime for a moment. Besides, it's very... You've always been a sweet girl, quick on the uptake, never imposing on others. You accept everything placed upon you and adjust yourself to it. That's what I'd call a blank page. Orihime purred fondly into Shirahime's ear, leaving her wondering if the words were meant to be a compliment at all. She looked up at Orihime questioningly, but Orihime smiled with an alluring gaze as deep and enigmatic as the sea itself, offering no hint as to her intent. Enigmatic, alluring. Questioningly, but enigmatic and alluring, fantastic word choice. That's amazing. If you really think that, then don't tease her. Kurofude had dejected. He spoke no differently from usual, but there was a hint of irritation in his tone. It might be all in good fun to you, but as far as Shirahime is concerned, every word is another valuable piece of insight into the world in herself. Oh, I beg your pardon. You always were protective of her. Orihime gave an exaggerated pout and cast Kurofude a chiding look. I wouldn't have to be if you weren't saying things designed to confuse her. I'm hardly doing things of the sort. That said, Shirahime is as expressive and reactive as ever. Maybe I got a wee bit carried away trying to see all her different faces. Shirahime's in a kaleidoscope. Like that word too. Giggle, giggle, giggle. Shirahime listened to the two in silence. Until then, the way Kurofude delivered that line with a straight face was too funny. A giggle escaped her. What? What is it? Why does he look so worried? Like, what? Why are you laughing? What happened? Probably the loaded remarks you're making. Loaded how? Oh, never mind. You two really are cut out for each other. Orihime sighed deeply and gave up on the barren discussion as a waste of time. Then she looked back at Shirahime like something just occurred to her. Oh, yes. Do remember one thing. The name of yours, Shirahime. I'm the one who gave it to you. Is that so? Yes, it is. I called you the Princess of White because of your parents, and I shortened it and made it into your nickname. I will remember that. Good. Don't forget it again. It would make me quite sad if you did. Orihime gave a mischievous smile, then turned with the conversation at a good stopping point. I better get back to the story. I'll be entertaining you two plenty later, so stick around and make yourselves at home. Thank you. Damn. Orihime returned to the banquet, where she took a seat next to Urashima Taro and started pouring him a sake. Urashima Taro looked hesitant at first, but as he conversed back and forth with Orihime, he started to look like he was genuinely enjoying himself. Shirahime saw herself reflected in the way he was reacting to Orihime. He was shy around the otherworldly beauty at first, but Orihime's friendliness gradually won him over. She saw her own expressions in hers. Is she the turtle? Who is the turtle here? At first I was struck by her beauty, but she was very warm and engaging. Shirahime aired her thoughts, and Kurofude smiled in reminiscence. She was hardly that informal at first, you know. She used to act more aloof, but that changed as we met with her more often. Is that so? Shirahime tilted her head curiously. Orihime's straightforward, refreshing way of talking seemed such a perfect fit for her. It's hard to imagine her acting aloof at all. Perhaps Lady Orihime is shy around strangers? Somehow I strongly doubt that. She doesn't look like the type to me. Yes, I suppose you were right. They nodded to one another and looked on at Orihime's banquet. What does the book say? The banquet continued for a long time. Shirahime and Kurofude were invited to another room and treated to fancy cuisine and dancing. Urashima's banquet continued even when they had finished. The page tells yet to turn. Shirahime murmured from behind the pillar where she observed the banquet go on and on with no end in sight. The way the illustrated book worked would not turn the page until the scene was finished playing out, meaning that the banquet they were witnessing must have come to an end before the story could move on. It's taking forever. It always did. Perhaps that shows just how grateful she is toward Urashima. Kurofude rolled his eyes, but Shirahime smiled and gave the situation a more charitable interpretation. She was delighted with the story's development, seeing a young man being rewarded for paying out of his own pocket to keep a turtle safe. So, something tells me something's going to go bad, going to go wrong. Something's telling me. That might be part of it, but she mainly likes a flashy party. It's a tad bit off-putting for us to be stuck at this point in the story, but it would be just as rude to ask her to cut it short for our benefit. It will end eventually. Let us be patient. Just as Shirahime smoothly avoided engaging in Kurofude's grousing, Urashima Taro finally rose from his seat of honor at the banquet table. Thank you for your most generous hospitality, but I should probably be going now. Shirime looked at Kurofude, relieved that things were wrapping up, but Kurofude's pained expression showed no sign of softening. He was glaring at Otahime and Urashima in open annoyance. Leaving so soon? You truly are an unselfish man. Unselfish? You needn't stand on ceremony. My gratitude to you for saving my dear turtle cannot be repaid in a single night. Otahime's tone was refined and alluring, nothing at all like the tone she used when speaking with Shirahime and Kurofude. Please, why don't you spend one more day availing yourself of the Dragon Palace's hospitality? What is one more day between friends? She cannot be serious. If you absolutely insist, then I must accept. But, Shirahime exclaimed before catching herself, quickly covering her mouth. Kurofude patted her shoulder. That's how the story goes. Settle in for another long day tomorrow. Content with the night's proceedings, Urashima Taro motioned to take his leave, then Lady Otahime insisted he stay. I simply cannot leave this debt unpaid. Just one more night? And Urashima Taro accepted, touched by her offer. When the page finally turned, it was to that passage. Now Shirahime understood why Kurofude was so openly bored, when he was usually so stoic. As Shirahime rose from her slumber, her mind drifted from one place to another. She knew she had dreamed a dream about something, but what that something was she couldn't quite remember. Dreams are like Adabana. No matter how many of them bloom, no matter how beautiful they are gone when you wake. She clumsily read back in her mind the analogy someone had once told her. The person's voice had been firm and confident, with the tone of one who cared naught for how empty or fleeting their words were. Adabana, is that what I am? Someone inside Shirahime asked. Am I an Adabana only blooming in dreams? The voice that spoke sounded so very forlorn. But another voice inside of Shirahime sought to soothe her. To bloom, even for a fleeting moment, is better than to have never bloomed at all, don't you think? Intriguing. Shirahime opened her eyes. The two conversationalists within her melted away to nothing. Yet these things were lost on Shirahime. The dream and how it had made her feel, the ensuing discussion, all were lost to the fog of forgetfulness. Is it morning? Is it evening? The only concern she held now was for the present. It was difficult to tell time in the Dragon Palace. The sun's rays did not reach the seabed, leaving the castle lit only by lantern light. She had been trying to maintain a schedule of rising in the morning and sleeping at night, but with only her intuition to rely on, she was struggling. The fact that I've woken up must mean it is morning. Shirahime decided to settle on that logic and climbed out of bed. Good morning. How's the book progressing? When Shirahime came upon Kurofude in the halls of the Dragon Palace, Kurofude offered a brief greeting and got on topic. Good morning. The book is much the same. Shirahime gave Kurofude a cursory greeting in turn, followed by a status update. They both sighed in unison. Beginning the day in poor spirits was inevitable. After all, they had begun and ended this same day dozens of times by now. Again, on the next day too, Urashima Taro accepted Lady Otahime's heartfelt hospitality. Dancing was gorgeous, the sake was delicious, and the conversation with Lady Otahime was delightful. Urashima Taro was content in a way he had never felt before, and was far from weary of to stay. Hence was why every night when Lady Otahime would plead with him to stay another day, he would readily agree. Is he pathologically averse to shaking his head? Kurofude's discontentment was only natural, though the illustrated book was full of new words. The words were one and the same as the previous pages. Not just yesterday's either. The day before that, and the day before that, and so on and so forth. Word for word, page for page. The spine of the Urashima Taro book was thin, but some strange power let the book hold far more pages than it appeared it could. How long has it been since we arrived here? Not a clue. Multiple weeks. You're familiar with the story, are you not? Is this normal? Not sure. I remember being frustrated at lots of waiting around, but I'm not sure if we waited more or less the previous times. The details start to blur together as the years go by. Sorry. Please, do not be. Shirime quickly shook her head and studied the illustrated book anew. Urashima Taro looked happy in the illustrations. He was living a life of luxury he never would have known otherwise, and his smile was proof of it. Likewise, Otohime appeared to be genuinely enjoying his company. She looked upon him fondly, her usual listless gaze lit up by delight. There are no worm-eaten holes and no bookworms. That would mean that this tale is in proper shape, correct? I believe so. Then perhaps our role is finished here, and the only hole to mend was the one in the first passage. As loath as I am to say it, we can't be certain of that until we finish the book. Shirihime's hypothesis was quickly ruled out. She sighed deeply. But there's no need for you to stick around for the whole thing. I know. You could always leave this book and tend to another. Quite. Shirihime replied uncertainly. It occurred to her that this wasn't the first time she had had this conversation. Perhaps they too were repeating conversations, word for word, day after day. Let's wait a little longer. Shirihime's conclusion also remained the same. As you wish. Despite how thoroughly fed up Kurofude was, he never pressed the option to leave the book. In the end, neither of them wanted to leave Urashima Taro unfinished. In Shirihime's case, it was because of the story, and in Kurofude's, his duty. This is long. After letting the fish-turned woman bring her breakfast and help her dress, Shirihime stepped out for an idle stroll. The halls of Dragon Palace branched in many directions, and there were vast rooms along the way at every dead end. The castle was quite literally labyrinthine in its complex layout. Labyrinthine, I like that word. However, Shirihime had gained a feel for the halls on her many walks, and she no longer had any trouble finding her way back to her room. Truly, I'm at a loss with how bored I am here. As a matter of fact, there were many things with which she might occupy her time to alleviate her boredom. Chatting with the fish and human guys, playing a koto made of shells and coral, arranging flower-like seaweed beds, playing a hajiki with pearls. She tried them all and found every activity highly entertaining, but the more Shirihime enjoyed herself, the more uneasy she grew. It would be so easy to forget about preparing the story altogether. That was the last thing she could afford to forget. She warned herself as she rounded a corner and walked down a hallway. As it happened, she had wandered her way into the grand hall, where Otohime was entertaining Urashima. The room was usually filled with beautiful music and with pleasant chatter, but for some reason, everything was quiet today. Is the banquet over at last? Shirihime peered inside hopefully. It was not hard to identify the reason for the silence. She could see Otohime and Urashima Taro together at the banquet in the grand hall. Hot damn, bro! This is getting spicy! Otohime was seated with her colourful robes draped around her. Urashima Taro was lying on a tatami, napping with his head resting in her lap. Urashima has fallen asleep, I see. Otohime had called off the musicians and dancers so that Urashima could sleep more soundly. It created an atmosphere of strained quiet. The scene was void of colour and music, yet Shirihime found it far warmer and more hospitable than the partying had been. Otohime watched Urashima sleep, her lowered eyelashes half concealing her smoky eyes, and lips curled upward ever so slightly. Her affectionate smile and the way she steadily stroked his back showed how deeply she cared for him. How beautiful, what an utterly beautiful scene. It is so much warmer, so much more lively than any decorations or music or dancing. Lovely, not lively. Shirihime looked on with bated breath, struck with overflowing emotion. However, Otohime, presumably sensing Shirihime's presence, looked up and spotted Shirihime. Why, hello there, Shirihime. What brings you here? Otohime's voice was surprisingly soft, considering Shirihime was intruding upon an intimate moment between the two of them. Intimate moment. I apologize, I am intruding. My dear, is that what you worry about? Don't huddle over there. Come join us. Otohime giggled and beckoned Shirihime over. Shirihime made her way over, drawn to the mischievous yet uncanny angelic smile on Otohime's bewitching face. You're hardly disturbing anyone. He's sleeping like a log. Chatting with you would be a welcome distraction from being stuck here all by myself. But what if we wake him? No, don't worry. Sir Urshima's slumber is deeper than the sea. Otohime stroked Urashima Taro's hair, for as casually as she spoke to him, her strokes had a motherly affection to them. Now, what's been troubling you? You've been biting your tongue, I can tell. I've seen the way you two look daggers at me. It was true that Shirihime had wanted to question Otohime if the opportunity to converse with her arose again, and though she was surprised that Otohime was the one to initiate their talk, she wouldn't squander the chance. Shirihime mustered her courage and spoke. Yes, actually, I have wished to converse with you for some time now, Lady Otohime. How much longer will you entertain Urashima? It's been the same thing for many days now. How much longer? Why, until I repay his favour, of course. How long will that take? Krafuda and I feel that you have repaid him amply already. Then, you and I will simply have to agree to disagree. It's simply not enough. I won't be satisfied till I'm satisfied. Whoever told you that? What would you do? Odahime gave Shirahime a mocking look that made Shirahime reflexively draw back. Despite Odahime's candid demeanour, her eyes were two wells of mystery, as befitted a princess of the deep. Something about her cryptic gaze suddenly seemed frightening to Shirahime. I was expecting you to roll your eyes, not flinch away. I'm so grateful to him. I could throw him parties for tens of thousands of evenings. That's all there is to it. But, yes? Odahime tilted her head coquettishly, to which Shirahime averted her eyes. I like that word as well. If she had met Odahime's eyes in that moment, she might have seen the intent lurking within them, and that thought frightened her deeply. Should Hiroshima not return home at some point? His life is on the land. If he wants to leave, all he has to do is tell me so, but he doesn't, precisely because he likes it here. I plan to devote myself to making him as happy as possible in whatever way I can. Odahime stroked Hiroshima Tara's hair fondly with her ivory hands. When Shirahime saw this out of the corner of her eye, she smiled. I agree that he is happy, and of that there can be no question. Really? You truly think so? Then why do you insist? Because... Shirahime struggled to find the right words. Odahime's calendar of entertainment continued, and who could say no? A near paradise such as this was hard to come by. Yet I sensed something dangerous about this never-ending bliss. Shirahime spoke up hesitantly. Do the bottom one. I am worried about you, Lady Otohime. Me? Odahime seemed taken aback by Shirahime's response. Her usual self-possessed voice had a bit of a squeak to it. Shirahime nodded and continued. I wonder how you will feel when Hiroshima eventually leaves Dragon Palace. The thought frightens me. It frightens you, you say? Yes. Shirahime affirmed in a quivering voice, for her heart ached at the notion that perhaps such an event might befall her too. When that happens, Lady Otohime, will it not hurt you even more deeply than what the turtle suffered on the beach? Shirahime blurted out before realizing what she'd said. Why did she draw the comparison with the turtle? Why had she been so adamant in her protests? And what was making her heart ache so? She didn't know. Yet she was lucid enough to understand that it was too late to stop herself from putting her foot in her mouth by letting her feelings do the talking. Shirahime could not find any more words. Odahime had gone quiet as well. The silence in the room was deafening. You worry about me? That's very sweet of you, Princess of White. Odahime was the first to break the silence. Her tone was very gentle when she finally spoke, but it wasn't quite like her usual pleasant banter. Shirahime found herself taking a gulp and met Odahime's gaze. The girl in white was reflected in blue tints within those pearly sea-blue eyes. Shirahime started to feel trapped by them and started to backpedal a step. But she couldn't. Odahime had taken hold of Shirahime's wrist without Shirahime realizing. You know, I have never once been unhappy, not since the day I was born. So the idea of being so happy would frighten me is, quite frankly, lost on me. Onihime's hand was so cold, Shirahime's breathing was becoming erratic. An icy sensation ran along Shirahime's skin that she tried to pull away, but Onihime's fingers were clenched tightly and would not let her go. What is this? Oh! It seemed as though her bright white kimono was being dyed from the point where Otahime had had a hold of her. A mysterious and airy deep blue was slowly crawling its way up her sleeve. Could this be ink? And though she indistinctly understood it to be ink, it didn't... No, fuck, I clicked too fast. It did nothing to dispel her growing sense of confusion. Ink in this world was someone's thoughts made manifest, the power to rewrite the stories of illustrated books. If this blue substance was ink born of Otahime's potent thoughts, then... Otahime is trying to change the story from inside the book. It's just like... At that moment, Shirahime felt her vision grow cloudy blue. Shit. She blinked, and when she opened her eyes again, the worst transformation was already complete. Seawater filled her nose, an icy chill penetrated her bones, and a blue abyss enveloped her. The pressure was so powerful she couldn't even breathe. In the time it took her to blink, the luxurious grand hall had been immersed in the sea. Damn. It was as though the pocket of air she had been inside had burst. I'm cold, I can't breathe, I'm scared. A muffled hollow sound reverberated in her water-filled ears. Was it bubbles in the water, or her skull creaking under the pressure? With that power to rewrite whatever I please on these white pages, I choose to fill them with only happy things. Otahime's sing-song voice came across in clarion tones through the thick, watery membrane. Fun things, beautiful things, and a happiness that lasts forever. What could be better? If you care about tomorrow, make it a happy tomorrow. If you dream, make it a happy dream. Here, I'll teach you how. Ugh. When Shirime spoke, all that came out was a great number of air bubbles. They glimmered like a school of tiny fish before drifting away. Shit, maybe I shouldn't have chosen that. Why do I always choose the bad options? Shirime's consciousness was swept away by cold water, and before she knew it, a turbulent whirlpool appeared containing little fragments of things. These fragments flitted in and out of view, floating up and then drifting down like petals that would vanish before her fingertips could reach them. Memories, recollections, feelings. Though these were momentary distractions to Shirime, Adabana that would never take root in her mind. Except for one fluttering petal that flew into Shirime's heart as she was carried away by the whirl of water. It showed her a fleeting dream. It was a place abandoned by time, one that was oblivious of the outside world. This oddly familiar setting, there were two children sitting hunched together. They appeared to be reading and reciting passages from an open book. A light shone down on them from somewhere, bathing them in a warmly glowing outline. So, what happens next? The boy asked. The boy typically talked more like an adult than a child, but a hint of curiosity had seeped into his tone, betraying his innocent interest in the story. The story's not just about Hiroshima being kept in the Dragon Palace forever, is it? Not at all. One day he recalls his mother and friends that he left behind on the land. In fact, once he remembers them, he cannot stop remembering them, so he decides to bid farewell to Lady Otahime at last. So she actually let him go home? The boy sounded a bit dubious. He seemed to have picked up on Otahime's progressively odd behaviour. These banquets were clearly out of proportion to the saving of one turtle. Why bother preventing Hiroshima from leaving? There must have been more to it. His doubts were clear even without him voicing them directly. Now that Hiroshima Taro had resolved to go home to the land, the boy suspected that Otahime would use some underhanded ploy to stop him. However, Lady Otahime chooses to see him off with grace. Lady Otahime presents Hiroshima with a small box as a parting gift. It is called a tamatebako, she says, a box that contains the time he had spent there. She adds that he must never, under any circumstances, open it. That seems strange. Why give it to him at all? She could have just keep it. Perhaps it is customary on the seafloor. The girl smiled softly at the way the boy furrowed his brows. Just then she realized how she was looking at him and looked down shyly. She turned the page to show the boy. Tamatebako in hand, Hiroshima Taro departed the Dragon Palace, the way he had entered it, riding on the turtle's back. When he reached the beach from where he had left, it seemed strangely familiar, yet unfamiliar to him. The sea, the sands, and the mountains in the distance are all the same, yet the people and the buildings along the beach seemed different. Upon speaking with one of these strangers, he learned that 700 years had passed while he was staying at the Dragon Palace. 700 years? That's a long time. We have to wait 700 fucking years? Perhaps the time flows differently in the seafloor and the Dragon Palace itself. The boy looked eager to continue, so the girl returned to the book to read more. Naturally, Taro's mother and friends were long gone. How worried his mother must have been when he suddenly vanished those 700 years ago. Taro was struck with shame for all the time he spent carousing in the Dragon Palace. He longed desperately to turn back time and do things differently. So, does he open the Tamatebako? Yes, he does. Hiroshima Taro surmised that if time was sealed within the Tamatebako, then releasing it would allow him a chance to do it all over. I suppose he's got no other real prospects now that he's a stranger in a strange time. The boy spoke in a rational tone, and the girl found it to be a very in character remark for him. If he had been in Hiroshima Taro's shoes, he would undoubtedly open the Tamatebako without a moment's hesitation. When Hiroshima Taro opened the Tamatebako, white smoke poured out and engulfed him from head to toe. Within the smoke, he saw the days of amusement he had spent in the Dragon Palace, Lady Otahime's generous hosting, the dancing fish, and the pleasant music. The boy looked pointedly at the last page as the girl turned it over to reveal the last page of the book. The sea breeze blew the smoke away, and the images faded away. When the smoke cleared, there stood Hiroshima Taro, now an elderly man with white hair and a white beard. An awkward silence filled the storehouse. The girl looked up and met the boy's eyes. He had an obvious look of incredulity, which she met with her own quiet gaze. Like that word as well. That's the end. That is the end. The boy sighed and shook his head. He had the look of someone who had eaten something that looked gross, then found it to taste as gross as it looked. I had a feeling something was coming. It's not exactly a happily ever after ending, is it? I was also surprised when I first read it. It would be sad enough to be left all alone in the world, but to face it as an old man as well. That's what he gets for faffing about indefinitely in a strange place. The boy judged Urashima Taro in a scathing tone, yet despite his clear and decisive judgment, his expression was somewhat shadowed. It was the same look he got whenever he read a story that he didn't agree with. And Otahime, what was she thinking? If opening the Tamaribako would turn him into an old man, she could have said so. In fact, she would have done him a service by not stalling him so long to start with. I imagine that was her way of showing gratitude to Hiroshima. The girl placated the boy as he griped about the story, as was often the case after they finished reading an illustrated book together. Theirs were vastly different perspectives. The girl had been familiar with such tales for years, while it was often the boy's first exposure to them. The boy often changed his mind after listening to the girl's calm and collected viewpoint. For her part, the girl gained many fresh insights into familiar stories from the boy's honest impressions. What's so great about the Dragon Palace that you wouldn't want to leave it once you're there? The boy huffed as he gazed off, seemingly studying his own mental image of the Dragon Palace. In the girl's view, the way the boy experienced these tales was less like reading and more like diving into them. When the girl read together with him, she also felt like she was being drawn into the worlds of the illustrated books. Anything fun can get boring when you do it every day. It's not like carp and flounder dancing would be that fun to start with. The girl remained steadfast as the boy voiced his blunt opinions. You may have a point. Perhaps the only explanation is that while Urashima might have wanted to leave, each day Lady Otahime asked him to stay. He would lose his chance. That doesn't explain why Otahime kept stopping him from leaving. I don't understand her at all. I think I might, the girl murmured. The boy looked at her in surprise. Normally it was the boy who spoke about stories as if it were himself who was the one experiencing them, yet this time, despite being acutely aware of how uncharacteristic this was of her, the girl couldn't help but want to do as the boy did. As she read Urashima Taro to the boy, she had found that his impressions had sparked her imagination and breathed new life into the story. Over the course of their fantastic journey, the girl had sensed how the feelings of that enigmatic sea princess had been plunged deep into her heart. Maybe out of the two of them, it was Lady Otahime who would have missed his company more. In the Dragon Palace, time flows slowly, and every day is the same. Then one day, a guest arrives. That must be a rare occurrence on the seafloor. Perhaps as she spent time hosting Urashima, she began to enjoy playing the part of the host. The girl spoke, staring down at her hands as they sat in her lap to avoid the boy's gaze. But she had to have known that what would happen if she kept preventing Urashima Taro from leaving. Yes, of course, she had to have known, but each time a day ended, she did not want it to be over. Or maybe she gave no thought at all what lay ahead. She was selfish. The boy muttered, yet there was no bite to his tone. His was a soft tone of acceptance. The girl took that as a cue and began weaving the vague ideas spiraling around in her mind into a coherent statement. Have you ever had a dream so delightful, so very delightful, that you never wanted to wake up? Even outside of dreams, everyone has moments they enjoy so much they wish the moment would never end. The girl grew perplexed as she spoke. All she was doing was voicing her feelings, yet for some reason her cheeks felt hot. I guess. The boy answered, shrinking in place next to her. He seemed to be averting his eyes from her as well. The girl continued on without giving it further thought, relieved that the boy didn't see her blush. Only, this time she was talking not to share some deeper insight, but to dispel the strange embarrassment she felt. It was childish rambling, nothing more, or at least that was all it was meant to be. Dreams are something that we always wake up from, and even the most delightful moments always come to an end. That is why... The girl spoke with an effortless lucidity, but upon sensing a deeper, more weighty meaning behind her words, she trailed off. What had made her say that? Just how was that thought supposed to end? In but a moment, her train of thought was gone, like a dream she had awoken from. The words that she failed to voice in her dreams were lost forever when she awoke. A sudden noise left her startled. She looked up sharply at the storehouse door. Someone was pounding on the door loudly from the outside. Like a hammer shattering a dream, a comparison not altogether inaccurate, she would come to realize. Young lady, I hate to interrupt your fun, but time is just about up. It was the girl's tutor. The tutor acted like a prim and proper lady in the girl's father's presence, but around the girl she was a down-to-earth woman with a mischievous streak. The whole reason the girl could read books with the boy in the storehouse was down to her tutor inventing excuses to cover for her absence. Do you think you'd come out by the time I count to 100? I told your father that you were in the bathroom with some stomach pain, so I'd play along if he asked. Yes, ma'am. The girl answered quietly, knowing she was inaudible to the tutor standing outside. The tutor added nothing more. She hadn't heard the girl's response, but she had faith that the girl would follow her instructions. Oh, is that Latte? Why didn't you say something? Oh, is it that late? Oh my god, I thought that was his name. The boy rose nimbly to his feet and rotated his arm around and around. I apologize, I must have neglected to wind my watch. The girl apologized as she rose slowly to her feet. It was a bold-faced lie, of course. Her father's pocket watch required no winding. She had simply avoided looking at it. Oh, maybe this is why I interpreted Lady Ohime's feelings the way I did. The girl thought secretly to herself as she watched the boy head for the entrance. The boy looked back at her, and she froze up and gripped her pocket watch tightly out of view so that he couldn't see it. The boy's lips turned upward in a bittersweet half-smile. When he spoke, he said something entirely unexpected. You know what? I think Urashima Taro should have walked right out of the Dragon Palace right as soon as he'd entered it. Oh. The girl had derived an entirely different moral from the story. She stood in place, feeling stricken. The boy wasn't finished, though. If they really didn't want to be separated, he could have taken Otohime back home with him. Wouldn't that have been the best ending? The girl was at a loss for words. The boy turned around and resumed walking. He promptly opened the doors and stepped out into the light that was shining in. The girl remained standing in place, pondering the boy's parting words. Then Shirahime left the girl's body and resumed drifting through the fragmented world again. The memory flower that had bloomed so vividly was now scattering without leaving any trace. Alright, so that is where I'm going to end the video. I do hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you all in the next one. Goodbye.